Alright, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Motivated, and we're back to talk about the Stone Staff. Long-range physical attack that penetrates enemies with secondary AoE petrifying ability. You need to deal 15,000 damage with the primary to unlock the unique upgrades. The level upgrades is to reduce mana. The unique upgrades is to increase secondary attack range or secondary launch after brief delay. I like both of these. I think it's a little situational. If you're running against flyers and flyers are your problem, you're going to want the increased secondary attack range. It's going to allow you to really take care of any flyer issues you have. If you're using this for flyers, which you probably should. If you're having any issues in the game at all, use the Stone Staff. I'll show you a couple of cool, easy ways to play the game with the Stone Staff. I think it's definitely the best weapon in the game, and it's definitely broken. However, it gets complemented by other weapons really well. And so, in particular, some other weapons. And so I would usually use it with actually two weapons, Stone Staff being one of them. The primary damage isn't the greatest, but when you use it with another weapon that has better primary damage, it just makes the whole world a hell of a lot easier. Alright, you get secondary launches after a brief delay. I like using this on Endless because it does give you that launched effect, which is going to add an extra combo point. But on top of that, it also causes enemies to fall down and have to stand back up. When they do that, they get a bit of a traffic jam, and they kind of spread out a little bit, maybe clump up a little bit, and then, it's very easy to manipulate them whenever you have the launch after a brief delay. So if you're playing Cygnus or you're playing Egan, you're able to get close enough that you can use this secondary launches after a brief delay. Now, we're going to run this whenever I show you guys the video on some cool tips and tricks you can use with the Stone Staff. But first, let's jump into the game files. So the very first thing to talk about is the damage is 10. It's pretty sad. Secondary costs 45 mana. Secondary radius is 6 grid squares. Grid squares the size of an archer, but 6 archers from you and, in front of you, it's going to reach that far. And then the cone angle is at 145. A lot of times we're talking about radiuses here. You're talking about the secondary for the ice amulet, or you're talking about, like, I don't know, you're talking about like the radius of an explosion, other stuff like that, right? But this one's actually a cone, so it's everything in front of you, which means that one of the things you might start trying to do if you're having a hard time using the Stone Staff is make sure that if you're going to petrify enemies, then you're going to turn around, if you're running away from enemies, petrify them, and then turn back around and run. So it's a little something you might have to get used to. But it's a cone angle in front of, or in the direction of what you, the character, are facing. That's where it is. It will sometimes seem to like miss enemies that are right on top of you or to your left and right, like directly to your left and right. And that's because they're not within the cone. So let me show you what a 145-degree angle looks like, in case you are curious. It looks like this. So here you are. So if they're like slightly outside of it, they're not going to get affected by it. Their hitbox has to be within this 145-degree angle. So you can imagine you are looking this way towards the 70 degrees there, and boom, everything within that is going to be affected. Now, it also seems to also be 6 grid squares tall, so just as far as it is, as tall as it is. So it's very, very wide as it is. I think they could have shrunk it down and maybe made it like 120 degrees, maybe 110 degrees. Like, that would have been good. Even maybe at 90 degrees would have been all right. But it's definitely a solid weapon because you can petrify so many, or maybe even have like a pierce cap for the petrification, right, where it can't go through a certain amount of enemies, like it gets stopped, so you can't really group up a bunch of enemies all together. But I digress. Let's go ahead and look at the the weapon protos here. So here we have our Stone Staff, and we have a primary ability cooldown of 0.3, which is 3.33 attacks per second. That's a little bit more than half of the crossbow. For reference here, we do have headshots. That is true, and the headshot multiplier is a 1, so it's a base headshot value. You do get it by purchase for 4 skulls, and let's see, is there anything else? No, there's not. Let's go to the upgrades. So for the first upgrade for the Stone Staff, we have a -3 secondary mana cost. Okay, we had the 45, it's over here, 45 mana cost, so it takes us down to 42. And then we get another -3, taking us to 39, and we have another -4, taking us to 35. So at the end, you're saving yourself 10 mana. That's pretty good. Honestly, it's a notable difference between having all the level upgrades and not having all the level upgrades. It's a notable difference for sure. The first unique upgrade, secondary attack range is increased by 300. Secondary attack range, right? Secondary attack range is already 6 grid squares. They're increasing it by another 2. That's 8 grid squares. Pretty insane. 8 grid squares in front of you in a 45-degree angle. Petrification. 3-second petrification. That is crazy. All right, but the other one is the secondary launch after brief delay, which becomes true. The alternate secondary, and we can see some of that here. Alternate secondary explosion count 1. So whenever you cast it, it takes a second, and boom, it blows up. The delay is 7.75 seconds, and it has a launch strength of 675, whatever that means. Who knows? So that is in basically the stone staff. Let's go ahead and look at the status effect here. So we're going to look at petrification here, or stoned, as it's called. Now, they did end up changing the flavor text to for the stone staff to say petrifying, because stone is can be confused with other things, whether it be religious practices or whether it be college kid practices. Either way, the default duration for stoned is 3 seconds, and the value that you have in additional physical damage is 1.3. So it will buff itself, right? When you auto attack, you do 10 damage. If you petrify an enemy, you're going to be doing 13 damage for your auto attacks instead of 10. And of course, it does headshot at a regular, the normal crit value, so it'll be probably like 26 if you get a bunch of headshots. So that's really all there is to see about the stone staff, other than checking it out in game. Now, if you've been around my channel, you'll know that this is one of my more favorite things to do, is to use the stone staff. Right, we're going to group up some enemies here. Okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to go, boom. So they're knocked up by the stone staff, and the trajectory of our double jump from Egan is going to knock them over the side. This works really, really, really well with gnolls and very heavy enemies, because gnolls specifically are a little hard to flip over these ledges because they're so heavy. As well as the very heavy enemies. They're hard to flip. But if you use a stone staff combo, it's really good. Also, you can kind of force fire elementals. Not fire lords. They don't get affected by the knockup. But fire elementals, they're very heavy, or they're heavy enemies. I'm sorry, shouldn't have said very heavy. They're heavy enemies, and they have a hard time getting flipped over the railing as well. You definitely want them to die before they blow up your barricades, and so you can use the stone staff Egan combo for them as well. Now, let's say you're having a hard time with the flyer levels. Let me just show you how good this is. Boom. 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 And you might say, what if you run out of mana? Easy. You just jump off the edge, and there you go. Boom. You got full mana again. Now, it's only full mana up to the mana cap that your character usually has. If you have the mana trinket, then it won't fill all the way, but that's okay. It'll fill as you're walking back to the flyers. It's a really good thing to use on every single level that has flyers, to include aqueducts. It's superbly good on. So if you're not using it for flyers, definitely use it for flyers. 100%. All right, we're going to take a look at one more way that we can use it. This time we're going to actually switch it over to the other upgrade. Again, the other upgrade is better for flyers, but if you are having a hard time keeping enemies locked down in an area, you can get the knockup, because it's going to force them to have to stand back up. It's going to give them more time in the area that you want them to be in, plus give you an extra combo point for the launched effect. The petrification does add, or is its own combo effect, so the only way to get that is the Cyclopean Gaze or by the stone staff. And because the stone staff is such a wide arc and has, affects all the enemies, and it's on command by you, it's definitely the better way to get that combo point. So even if you're just running it for combos and you're like, well, it's too good of a weapon, I don't want to bring it for high scores, it's really, really good for getting scores as well. And it can be your only weapon if you want. Okay, so let's take a look at another map here. All right, here we have the Armored Ogre. Now, this is on Apprentice, so to kind of make sure we get everything that we need. So remember, they take bonus physical damage, and guess what explosion damage is? Physical. And guess what that is? See how I'm going with this? That, my friend, is an explosion. Alright, get ready, and skadoosh. Boom. Deleted. Look at the damage this guy took. Now, like I said, it is on easy, so he will take more damage than he otherwise would. But that's okay. We are going to have another one back here. Gotta get ready for it. Actually, we can just use the sappers, right? Boom and boom. It has pierce, right? So it'll pierce through enemies, which means it's very easy to hit things in the back. Boom, done. Basically, cleared this whole first wave with nothing but tar and our stone staff. So not only that, but also headshotting. You can have a secondary weapon. You know, let's take a look at another weapon as well. We can just do the same map. That's fine. So one of the things I really like about it is the auto attack, and I showed this off with the crossbow, I believe. So if I haven't, I mean, if you've watched any amount of me, you definitely have seen this. Crossbow is one of my more favorite weapons to use with the stone staff. I have 1 and 2, or I can do mouse wheel if I am feeling bold. Usually I just do 1 and 2 because, you know, WASD keys and then 1 and 2 there. I guess Q and E don't really do anything. Well, okay, yeah, they do. They sell and stuff. All right, so here we are attacking, right? Our bloom increases, and boom, we reset our bloom. Why did we reset our bloom? Because we auto-attack once with the stone staff. You know what's great is I can do both the auto-attack and the petrification, which allows my crossbow to do more damage. Now, I don't remember what map has gnolls in round 1. And there might not be one, but gnolls, for whatever reason, and Mongrel, their heads will bob whenever you shoot them, and they're petrified. They're not supposed to, but they do, and I don't know why. It's kind of annoying, but that is one thing that you're going to run into with it. They do it when they're frozen as well. It's the same for whatever reason, but that's what we have for the stone staff, guys. If you've watched anything of mine, you know that I love the stone staff. It's really good, really clutch for endless. So, you know, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Do you use it? Do you not use it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Why not? And if you know of any other cool tips and tricks about the stone staff, please let me know in the comments below so other people can find that as well. As always, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow, stream with you Twitch as of right now, and I will catch you on the flip side. All right, deuces.